of Unity's sizzling summer series of hot topics. And today's hot topic, let's talk about sex. Doesn't get any hotter than that. But what is sex anyway? I mean, is it a procreational function of the human body? Is it a recreational activity for fun? Or could it be a sin? Is there a possibility it's a divine idea in the mind of God? Let's look at those possibilities. I'd like to begin, rather than with a regular scripture reading, I'd like to tell you a story from the Bible. It is the story of the fall of man. You're probably familiar with it, so I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version. It opens up in the Garden of Eden in paradise. Adam and Eve are there, and they are so happy. They have a beautiful place to live. They have safety. They have security. They have anything they want, except for the tree, the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and the fruit of the tree of life. God said you can eat of all the trees in the garden, not those two trees which happen to be at the center of the garden. Well, everything went along great for quite some time until one day when Eve was in the garden and she encountered the serpent. And the serpent goes, "Yo, Eve, come here." So she goes over and the serpent says, "Look at the fruit on that tree. Have you ever seen such beautiful fruit in all your days?" And Eve said, "Well, you're right. That certainly is beautiful fruit, but God said we couldn't have that. That was one of the trees we couldn't eat from." The serpent says, "Look around. Do you see God anywhere? And look at that fruit." Well, Eve looked around. She didn't see God anywhere, and that fruit sure did look good, so she grabbed it, and she had a bite, and like all forbidden fruit, it was yummy. And so she goes running to Adam with the fruit, and she goes, Adam, I just had this fruit. It's fabulous. You got to try it." And Adam looks at it, and he says, "Wait a minute. Isn't that fruit from the tree that God told us we weren't supposed to eat from, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil?" And she goes, "Adam, I don't see God anywhere. Do you see God anywhere? Besides, the serpent told me it would make us as smart as God." So Adam ate the fruit. And they thought they were doing okay until one day when Adam heard God's footsteps coming through the garden. And he ran and he hid in a bush. And God says, "Adam, where are you? Adam!" And Adam calls out from the bush and he goes, I'm hiding." And God says, "Why are you hiding?" And Adam said, "Well, because I'm naked." And God knew right then they were busted. He said, "Adam, who told you you were naked? Did you eat the fruit from that tree?" Well, it was all over. He came out of the bush and he said, "Well, yeah, but the woman made me do it." God looks at Eve and she goes, "Yeah, but the serpent made me do it." And God looks at the serpent. Well, he had nobody to blame, so he cursed the serpent and told him he'd crawl on his belly for all eternity. And he put Adam and Eve in animal skins and kicked them out of paradise, telling Eve that her children would be born in pain and suffering, and Adam that by the sweat of his brow he would have to till the soil to get his bread, and it wouldn't be easy. You know, to me it was kind of like God saying, "Oh, you want to be as smart as me? You think you're as smart as me? Fine, then go out and make your own paradise, because clearly you don't need this one anymore." Boy, if that's not an example of cause and effect, I never heard one. See, as long as Adam and Eve were ignorant, life was blissful. However, once they had knowledge, they had the responsibility for living according to that knowledge. The same thing is true for you and for me. I may be giving you some knowledge today that may or may not cause you to rethink the way that you think about sex. Or not. Maybe there's a few things you could teach me. Regarding sex, we have to ask ourselves, what are the implications of our activities? See, we are awake awakened individual beings. We have the ability to reason, and therefore we already have the knowledge of good and evil within each one of us. We know right ways to be, to think, to do. However, we have not yet gotten there. We are not yet fully evolved or fully Christed. So we are also subject to our inner Adam and Eve, our lower emotions and our lower thought process, which can be called rationalization. Telling ourselves rational lies like Adam and Eve, I don't see God, so I'm going to do it anyway. When we are considering how we operate regarding our sexual expression, do we look at the bigger implications? If we look at sex as the gift it was meant to be, we see that it can bring an intimacy beyond anything else. When we utilize our sexuality spiritually and with purity, we align ourselves with another person with commitment that gives a foundation. It gives not only pleasure but happiness, and it can be the foundation from which strong families and fulfilling lives are built. On the other hand, if we function only from our lower carnal knowledge, going from the call of the serpent to find our pleasure or happiness through just pure physical expression, then we will probably experience a lack of fulfillment, insecurity, a sense of loss of self-respect or in general self-worth. It leads to disease. It leads to the breaking down of our moral fiber. And you know, it's really, really hard. We don't get a lot of support in leading lives of spiritual integrity. Sometimes even the religious community takes sex and makes it such a sin that we don't want to do it. And then on the other hand, we're sometimes called, as a matter of fact, a minister once told me, well, all sex is sacred. Well, I'm sorry, that did not resonate with the truth of my being then, and it doesn't resonate now. What makes sex sacred? It is sacred when we make a conscious decision to merge our very energy fields, our very spiritual energy with another person, with a sense of true value, love, meaning, and commitment. See, in the world today, sex is seen as a physical, recreational activity. And actually, as a physical, recreational activity, it's all about me. It's all about what I want, when I want it, how I want it, with no commitment, no connection, and it really does not bear good fruit. As I said a few minutes ago, it bears the fruit of disease and suffering. And in Unity, one of the explanations or definitions we give to sin is useless, unnecessary suffering. See, because there's lies that we think about sex. Sometimes we think that being very sexually active means that we would be very virile and very desirable. And really, what it usually comes down to, it's available. It's just available to be a vehicle for someone else's pleasure. In order for sex to be elevated above the purely physical realm into the deeply emotional, mental, spiritual realm, there has to be connection, commitment, integrity. Do you see the difference between knowledge and ignorance? Perhaps the person that told me all sex was sacred was ignorant about the spiritual energy that is involved when two people experience deep intimacy. Sometimes I ask myself, how low can we go? Recently, my sister and I went to go to the movies, and we were going to see Brave, and they had actually canceled it because they were working in that, they were doing some reconstruction in that theater where it was showing. So we said, well, we'll go see Magic Mike. Now, ignorance, I thought Magic Mike was going to be kind of a fun, maybe a little bit naughty kind of movie. And I said, oh, well, let's go, you know. Calendar get girls. See, I am not a prude, not by any stretch of the imagination. But understanding spiritual principle, I know where lines need to be drawn and what the big picture is for some of the thoughts and feelings that are being expressed out in the world that our lower mind and our lower emotions, our physicality and sensuality is catching and our spirituality doesn't get. In any event, from the time that the movie started, we both wanted to leave. We kept thinking, we'll give it a chance to get better, and it never got better, and I walked out of that theater feeling like I needed a bath. Now, you see, I'm not going to call anybody in the movie or people created the movie inherently evil, but the outcome of putting that kind of input into our minds, you know, people say it's just a movie. However, statistically, it has been proven that people are more inclined to promiscuity, more inclined, children, young teens are inclined to becoming sexually active earlier without knowing a darn about what they're doing, and that they are influenced by movies, songs. I mean, this is where we can choose to put the blinders on and say, it's only a movie, it's only a movie. But then as we experience further erosion of our true values, we're going to have to take the consequences of what they bring. Now, here's good news. There is good news. That the law of cause and effect is always working with us toward a higher state of consciousness and a higher evolution of our spirit to become that fully Christed person that we are designed to be. But it's like a gravitational pull. We must keep our consciousness uplifted. What would you put into your body? Would you eat from the garbage can? Or would you want to eat healthy food from healthy sources? It's the same thing with our mind and our soul. What you put in has a great impact. So I encourage you to practice one of the things that is such a gift. It is self-discipline. Tune in to that inner part of you, the wisdom within. When you are making choices regarding your sexuality, I know this was a hot topic. I got to tell you, it was hard for me to talk about. But I really want everyone to enjoy the true beauty that true union of our physical bodies can bring. Until I see you again with our next hot topic, I pray knowing that the light of God surrounds you, the love of God enfolds you, the power of God protects you, and the presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is, and all is well. God bless you. Have a wonderful day and a great week. Hope to see you next time.